Oh, good morning. And by morning, I mean it is 1:24 p.m. when I am recording this. I have iced coffee in my hands, and I woke up at 11:30 a.m. because I don't know how to stop working. So, today's episode, we're going to talk about burnout and how acting like I act leads you to burnout. The first part of this is going to be about burnout in general, and I think things that can apply to pretty much anyone in any part of life. And then the second half of the video is going to be about content creation specifically. I say that, but I don't have anything planned. So it could be that like 10 minutes is burnout and then 30 minutes is content creation burnout. We're going to see what happens. We're all on this adventure together as a family. First, let's talk about what burnout really is, because you listening are going, oh, yeah, I'm so burnt out. You might actually be in pre-burnout stage, which is good. Don't take that as offense, like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. One, I probably don't. But two, if you're pre-burnout, if you're just starting to burn out, that's good. That's the best position you can be in when it comes to burnout, because that means you are more likely to be able to pull yourself out of it with ease. So pray that you are, in fact, just starting to burn out or have realized that you're coming up very quickly on burnout. Because if you are, like me, in the middle of burnout, that's going to be way harder to pull yourself out of. Well, I say like me, but I'm not currently burnt out. I've been around the block many times. And the reason I'm making this episode is because I want to try to save all of you from what I went through. Okay, so first and foremost, burnout is actually more than just, I don't want to work or I don't want to do the thing that I used to love. It's going to affect not only your mental health, it can affect your physical health, and it leads to emotional exhaustion, and it's an actual like illness when you really think about it. It will lead to fatigue. It will lead to you lashing out at people. You can even give you headaches and gastrointestinal issues. Burnout is a very real and scary thing, and I think people don't take it seriously enough. And while burnout is generally linked to work, it doesn't only come from work. It can happen in every aspect of your life. It can happen from just being maybe too emotionally available to a friend and that friendship is being burnt out. It could be that your favorite hobby no longer brings you joy and you feel rushed and overwhelmed every time you think about it. That's burnout. You're burnt out on that hobby. And it might not be extreme burnout, but that's still what it is. So let's figure out if you are leading yourself to burnout or if you are currently in it. Generally speaking, you are going to feel drained pretty much 100% of the time. You're also you're going to feel like you don't have control. You might not be able to sleep well. You're going to be potentially agitated or sad or like angry, or even not care, but have no reason for it. You don't understand why you feel that way. You could feel let down by your job, by your friends, by your state of living. A good example for myself is my apartment is always a mess. It is what I call a depression pit. And mind you, only in one area of my house is it like that. And for full honesty and to maybe let some people feel seen, mine is my kitchen if I use it. A lot of the times I avoid using my kitchen because I know that by using it, I am going to have it become a depression pit. It is something that for me is so hard to navigate. And mind you, without trauma dumping on all of you and having you retain my trauma, I will let you know I'm aware that the reason that's a thing is correlated to something that's happened in my past. But I know that and I'm working on that and I have therapy. And oh my God, if I could say one thing everyone should do is therapy. And I know it's so hard because not everyone has access to it. It's expensive. It shouldn't be. And I am so sorry. I genuinely wish that I could offer therapy to every person in the whole world because it is so helpful. And even if it's not life altering or life changing, it's such a good step in that direction. So if you can find a way to get low cost or free therapy, or you can work towards even just a few sessions, I really do recommend it. Anyway, back to burnout. This episode is going to be a little bit heavier. Like if you've been here the whole 5 minutes already, I'm really proud of you because it is a heavier topic. And it might make you realize that you're struggling with some things you didn't realize you were struggling with. So I do want to say, if at any point in this episode you feel overwhelmed or like you just can't handle it, that's okay. There's a reason for a pause button. Pause it, come back later, take some deep breaths, make sure you move around a little bit in any way that you can. It's really, really helpful to allow your body to process the emotions without necessarily focusing on why you're having the emotions, which is a tip for burnout, actually. So we'll get into that in a minute. But remember, you can pause the video, you can come back, take a breath. You don't have to watch this all in one go. So let's assume that you right now are in the start of burnout. You're not right in the middle of it where you've lost full control. You don't feel like everything around you is a bottomless pit, for lack of a better term. Here's the things that I would really encourage you to do. And I know when I say these things that you're going to think, well, it's not that easy. And you know what? It's not fucking easy. It's really, really hard. But I believe that you can do it. Okay? I believe that you can do it. So if you're in the start of burnout or you're worried about becoming burnt out, there are things you can do to help you handle it and also avoid it in the future. So let's start with handling burnout. The first thing you need to do is sit down and ask for support. Ask for help. It is so hard, but it is the best thing you can do, especially in a work environment. If you can go to a person that you trust, be it a coworker or a higher authority, and say, I have too much on my plate. It is not that I am incompetent, that I am incapable. It is that it is too much for one person who is also trying to take care of their life outside of work. Now, if you cannot go to somebody at your job, because that can be a very real thing, go to people in your life and say, hey, my job is overwhelming, which means that my life is overwhelming. I need help in life. And there's a lot of people that you don't realize would want to help you in little ways. People are already going to go to the grocery store, so ask a friend if they could do your grocery trip for you. Give them some extra money. Say, hey, would you mind picking up a few things for me? It would make my life a lot easier. And if you have good people in your life, they will help you. Community is so important when it comes to avoiding burnout in all areas of life. It's also important to set realistic goals for yourself. I think a lot of the time when people realize that they're becoming overwhelmed with anything, be it work or life, they try to sit down and fix everything all at once. And that's not possible. It's good to lay out a map of what you want to do. List out the things that are overwhelming you and the things that bring you joy. Because I firmly believe it's important to balance everything that you do. So if you're going to sit down and you're going to make a list of all the things that are overwhelming you, it's also good for your brain and the chemicals it creates to see a list of the things that bring you joy. And it allows you to say, for every 2 things I do that complicate my life, I get to do a thing that brings me joy. It's also important to list them in order of what is going to make the most effect on your life, not the thing that's most important. And what I mean by that is getting my dishes done is not going to change the fact that I have to spend way more hours working in a week than an average person doing the job that I do. But it will make everything easier because when I go to the kitchen and I'm exhausted, my dishes will be done. I will not have to wash a bowl. I will not have to search for a fork. They will be done. So it's important to recognize what will have the most beneficial effect on you emotionally and physically rather than what you think is most important for everyone around you. The next things you're going to be like rolling your eyes at me. And I know, trust me, I get it. But exercise, sleep, for real. I'm not kidding. And exercise doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm break a sweat, build muscle. It can be yoga. It can be meditation. It can be going for a walk outside. While you're listening to this, put it on your headphones, go outside, stroll down the sidewalk. Be it 5 minutes, be it 30 minutes, whatever you can handle, whatever your body lets you do. Or maybe sit on a balcony or, move away from your computer. Like right now, you might be listening on your computer. So take a minute, pause the video, put it on your phone, put your headphones in, and go sit in your favorite chair. Get yourself a cup of tea. Those little things can really help negate burnout, can really help you feel like you have more control over your life. And one of the number one causes of burnout is feeling a lack of control. Now, when it comes to sleep, I do have some tips, and they may or may not work for you. But the number one tip that I can give you, which is one that I'm struggling with, so you and I, we can hold hands right now while we both work through this. Put your phone down. Put all screens away. If you have a TV in your room, move it out of there. If you have a computer in your room, make sure you turn it off or cover it. Put a pillowcase over the screen. I am so serious. Remove screens and the internet from your bedtime routine and from your bedroom if you can entirely. I find that recently it's been really helpful to have a phone spot. And if you're my age or around my age or older, you'll remember home phones. Phones that were attached to the wall and couldn't go anywhere and simply dialed one number at a time. And three-way calling was a mystery beyond to behold. So get yourself like a tray, or hell, even take a cardboard box and decorate it to your liking. And that's your phone box. That's where your phone goes. Make a little hole for a charger to go through it. Put it in there. Your phone stays there when you go to bed. It's still in the room. It's reachable. You can hear it in emergencies. If you use it as your alarm clock, it's even better because then you'll have to get up. Sorry, I kind of burped while I said that. You have to get up to get your phone, which will help you pull yourself out of bed. Now, this isn't going to work for everybody, mind you, because it does take a sort of self-control and, perseverance to actually take this action. So if you fail a few times, that's okay. Because guess what? Failure doesn't really exist. It's just trying again. It's not failing if you keep trying. You're just taking steps towards success. And one day you'll spend a night without your phone and you'll toss and turn for 20 minutes pissed off that I made you put your phone in a box. But then the next night you'll toss and turn for 10 minutes pissed off that I made you put your phone in a box. And before you know it, you're falling asleep within, 5 minutes of laying down, pissed off at me that I made you put your phone in a box. It's also important to remember when it comes to sleep, if you can, make your sleep schedule work for you. There is no right or wrong sleep schedule. A lot of people are night owls. A lot of people are early risers. The important thing is that you get enough sleep. It doesn't matter when you get it. If you are a 2-hour napper in the middle of the day and a 6-hour sleeper at night, great. If you are a 10-hour sleeper, hi, it's me. I need at least 8 to 10 hours of sleep fully for me to feel rested. That is also okay. That's allowed. I know that if I'm going to stay up until 11 o'clock at night, I'm also going to probably be waking up at 10 a.m. in the morning, which is fairly late with how much I need to do in a day. But I recognize that about myself. So I've scheduled my life around making sure that I give myself the opportunity to get that sleep. Do I always get that sleep? God, no. Absolutely not. I think I get maybe 6 to 8 hours of sleep most of the time, but at least I'm giving myself the opportunity to have 10 hours of sleep, which is what I need. Another really big contributing factor of burnout is the lack of clarity about what's expected of you to do, especially in work environments. A lot of the time, you will be given a job and you won't get all the details. You'll do the job, you'll do it well, mind you. And then the feedback will be that it's not good enough or it's not what they wanted. And that can feel very overwhelming. And I think that that also crosses over to content creation really well because we don't have a guidance. We don't know what we're doing. There's no rule book on how to create content. It's just do what you do and hope it succeeds. And there's an algorithm that we're fighting with every day. Like, I feel like I need to draw the algorithm as a big beast and then we can tame it together because my God. Anyway, if you can reach out to the people that are expecting things of you and ask for clarity, do that. It's okay to, in quotation marks, bother people because you're doing something for them. You're doing a job and you want it to be good. So reaching out and saying, I want to double check that what I am creating for you is what your expectations are. That's good. If anything, you're going to look like a professional because you double checked before putting in a lot of work hours. There's also the opposite effect with burnout in that your job is boring the shit out of you. Because having a boring job, I don't think people realize this. If you are not getting any amount of joy from the job you're doing, you will burn out faster. And people are always thinking that burnout is coming from a place of overwork, of too much work, of physically draining, emotionally draining. Being bored is also emotionally fucking draining. And sadly, a lot of us are stuck in jobs that we hate because we need to pay the bills. And there's very little we can do about it. And I hate to say that because it does sound like a downer moment, but I am really not a toxic positivity person, but I am a fake it till you make it person. So when I worked a job that wanted my hair to pull out of my head, I found ways to make it exciting. I did little things throughout the day like doodle on paper or make up stories in my head or just the thing is I don't know what job you do. So it's going to be so different for you than for me. But the job that I did was so monotonous that I was like literally felt like I was becoming a robot. So instead of allowing the monotony to get to me, I used it as a way to allow my creative mind to flow. And I started thinking of things I could do when I got home. I started thinking and planning my day while working. And I found that that was really helpful. So it might work for you, it might not. But while I was doing a very monotonous task, I would start thinking about all the ways that I could improve my life once I was no longer doing this task. And I found that that was really helpful because I was both doing a job, getting paid, and working to plan my life outside of it. Which is funny because doing that actually led to me being able to do content creation full time. The job that I was doing that was pretty miserable allowed me to realize that I was miserable and I wanted to work to something different. And I took the time when I was, working and there was no boss around and there was no customers around. I would study, I would look online and I would research and give myself the opportunity to take notes and plan when I had the opportunity for downtime. Because that's the reality of this. A lot of us who work in office jobs are not monitored 24/7. If you are monitored 24/7, my God, I'm sorry. I hope that you can leave that job. That's a nightmare situation. If you're working with your hands, you're probably less likely to not have wait, that doesn't make any sense. If you're working with your hands, you're probably not going to have the time to write things down or stop and pause. But I hope that anyone working with their hands enjoys doing that, and maybe that helps a little bit. Anyway, I'm rambling. Let's go back to how to cope with burnout. We've gone over looking over what's going on in your life, the good and the bad, reaching out, different activities, getting a little bit of exercise, and trying to get sleep. The other thing that is really, really helpful when approaching burnout or in burnout is mindfulness, which I did talk about mindfulness in gaming in my last episode. And this does, it does apply to real life as well. And I talked about that a little bit too. So you can watch that or listen to that episode if you want to. But mindfulness is being aware of what's going on inside and around you without judging and reacting to it in any particular way. It allows you to recognize you're feeling a feeling, but you don't question why you're feeling it. And I know that sounds counterintuitive, but it truly is helpful to sit back and say, what am I feeling right now? I am feeling angry and I am feeling overwhelmed. And you accept those emotions and you try to let your body tell you where it's holding those emotions. And once you can do that, you can work to physically shake off those emotions and work with them. It's why I am so adamant that physical movement is important. Allowing your body to work through emotions in itself is actually a core part of a lot of therapy practices now. So make sure you're giving yourself the time to actually feel an emotion. If you cry, if you need to scream, if you need to run, jump, just do it in a way that you don't hurt yourself. Don't go punching walls. Allow yourself to scream into a pillow. Allow yourself to do some push-ups or do some squats or just shake your arms and your legs, maybe dance, maybe go for a run. It doesn't have to be something that you do every day, but if you're allowing yourself to sit there and feel that emotion, your body will start to react and your body will tell you what you need to do without you ever explaining to yourself why you need to do it. You don't need to know the reason why. You just know you're feeling it. That feeling is valid and you need to work with that feeling. I feel like this is going to be a longer episode and I apologize for that, but it's about 21 minutes in. So if you're still listening to this, let's be mindful together and take a break. Now's a great time to pause the episode, go get yourself a little snack, maybe swap your laundry over, put the dishwasher on, something that will help you in the future, and then you can come back and listen to the rest of this. Or maybe keep listening while you do those tasks, okay? Avoiding burnout. These are all pretty much the same things. Making a list of all the things that you have going on in your life and all the things that are bringing you joy is going to be a great way for you to manage which are the things that I need to focus on, which are the things that I need to do on a daily basis, and which are the things I need to do on a weekly basis, and giving yourself a proper schedule. And I know schedules are really hard to stick to in all aspects of life, but I'm going to start talking strictly about content creation. Because content creation is one of those things where it's a lot more difficult than people realize. And you can really easily burn yourself out with 1, trying to keep up with other creators, 2, trying to keep up with other creators, and 3, trying to keep up with the algorithm. And I know I said keeping up with other creators twice, but that's because I feel like every content creator holds themselves to a higher standard than they really have to because they feel like they're not succeeding and their counterparts are, and they don't understand why. And having that feeling is going to lead you to burnout because you're going to constantly try to keep up with someone who has a very different life than you, who has a very different schedule than you, who might have more physical or emotional support than you. To avoid burnout, you have to recognize your own limitations and be proud that you are recognizing those limitations because limitations are not bad. They are simply just there, just a word. They are just a reality. And sometimes less is more. A lot of the time, content creators feel like if we're not making content, if we're not existing, people will forget we exist and the algorithm will hate us. But consistency with less content is more important than inconsistency with more content. It's also important to try to not do too much. A lot of the time, content creators will decide that they need to follow a certain fad or, new thing that everybody is jumping onto. If you do that every single time, you are going to burn out. There is literally no way to avoid that. The world is constantly changing, new games, new fads, new memes. There's no way to keep up. So don't try. Yes, it's important to recognize what's going on when it comes to current popular hashtags or current popular video games if you do video games, current popular book themes if you do book content. Of course, it's important to keep up with it. But trying to keep up with every single little thing, that's not possible. It's also possibly going to confuse your audience because you are flip-flopping all over the place all the time. So if a current fad or meme fits into your content, absolutely jump on that bandwagon. But if you're only doing it because other people are getting popular off of it, it's not worth it. All you're doing is going to add stress and extra work to your life for probably very little payoff. Another way to avoid burnout as a content creator is recognize your tools. I'm going to specifically talk about Twitch and YouTube, but it can also relate to social media content. One, schedule. Always use your scheduling tools. You do not have to be awake when something goes live. My podcasts go up at 9 a.m. Pacific. I am more than likely still drooling on my pillow because my rabbit has woken me up 3 times throughout the night. Make content in advance and schedule it, because you can also change the schedule. Having a backlog of content, whether it's great content or just kind of I threw this together content, is amazing to have when you have a down week, when there's nothing you want to focus on, when there's something that you need to focus on outside of content creation. You can have a little evergreen video, evergreen content. And evergreen is a term used in a lot of work environments, and it basically just means always relevant. If you do Sims content, for example, it could be a decorating a room based off of a theme. If you do game review content, it could be 5 cozy games we forgot about, which I'm going to be doing, so steal that if you want to, but hey, I think it'll work well. Having these videos that we've created that are just little blips of content that we can throw up onto the internet when we're having a really busy week can really help remove burnout from our lives when we're actively living. Another thing, this is specifically for Twitch streamers, you don't have to keep streaming if you get a raid. Oh boy, it's actually so agitating for me personally when I know a streamer is so hungry or so tired and has been talking about wanting to end the stream for like 20 minutes and they get a raid and they keep streaming. That is not good for you. One, it's teaching your community that if people continue to push you, you will just keep going. And that's not a role model. You need to instill in your community that there are boundaries and limits. And that way, when you go to do like subathons or tipathons, just athons of any kind, your community will know how dedicated you are to doing this, because this is something that you don't usually do. There is also a tool on Twitch that allows you to stop raids for the next hour. It's a button you can put on your dashboard. So go look for that. And then when you know you're going to end within the next little while, click the button. And I'll repeat, for Twitch creators, less content on a consistent schedule is better than more content on an inconsistent schedule. It's better for your content, it's better for your growth, and it's better for you emotionally, physically, and to avoid burnout. In the end, when all is said and done, the easiest way to avoid burnout is balance. And it can be really hard to find, but even by listening to this podcast, you're taking the first step in trying to find that balance. You can work really, really hard, but if you do not give yourself the time for socialization and relaxing hobbies, you will burn out. It doesn't matter how much work you're doing. If all you're doing is work, you'll burn out. So stop monetizing everything that you do and allow yourself to have time and space away from work, away from content. Give yourself an hour every day where you do something that's just for you. I give myself 2 hours a day, 1 in the morning and 1 at night. When I wake up in the morning, the only thing I do is have my breakfast and sit with my animals and maybe read or research into a hobby I love. At night, I make sure to give myself 1 hour of socialization. If it's with a partner, with a friend, or just sitting on the floor with your animals, watching your favorite TV show, away from everything else. If some of that time can be spent outside, that is even better. And if you're too busy to do an hour a day, I really, really encourage you to reassess the way that you live, the way that you work. And if it truly is that you do not have the time to rest during the week, give yourself a few hours one day a week. Know that you can truly rest. And rest doesn't have to be doing nothing. Rest can be actively doing things that bring you joy. All of the things that I've said honestly relate to avoiding burnout and recovering from burnout. Rest, sleep, some exercise, set boundaries, taking breaks from technology like your phone, and nurture your creativity. Give yourself the time to explore and ask for help. It is not a bad thing, and it is not a weakness. Asking for help is one of the strongest tools we have. I hope that this helped you figure out if you are in pre-burnout or helps you to encourage you to work through feeling burnt out. I wish you all the best, sincerely. And I do want to take an opportunity to thank everyone that allows me to do what I do, because all of you help me create in a life that allows me to avoid burnout and work through how bad burnout was in my past. Without all of you supporting me, just being here, not even monetarily, just watching, liking, being part of any type of content I create, be it YouTube, Twitch, or other, you let me do this and you let me live a life that I am happy with. And yes, I still have depression. I still have PTSD. That's not going anywhere. But I can manage it because of all of you. So if you really think like you don't contribute anything, and that's part of why you're feeling really burnt out or down, know that you make a difference in my life. And I am very grateful for it. Thank you for watching. This is the end of the podcast. I hope you have a magical day. And if you feel like giving it a thumbs up or subscribing, great. But as always, there is absolutely no pressure. Have a wonderful week and know that I am proud of you.